Hey there, this is Jen of Wooden Word Blooms. Today we're going to create a wood flower boutonniere using a boot stick. So first you're going to need some flowers, single flower or you can have multiple, however you'd like to do it. And we're going to need our wires, greenery, fillers, either floral tape or vinyl tape or electrical tape, wire cutters, and of course a glue gun. So to get started, the first thing we're going to do is stem our flowers. Oh, and this is the Boot Boss pin that I love using. I will link that below. So first off, we're going to cut our wires. I just kind of gauge it, cut a couple inches, enough that I can work with them. And then we are going to glue these wires into our wood flowers on the back end. And so next what we're going to do is just put a dab of hot glue on the back of our flower. You're going to grab your wire, hold it just 1.5 inches or so from the end, give it a gentle twist and push in about 1/4 inch, and let that cool, and you're good to go. With my mini flowers, I'm actually going to trim the bottom of this. Sometimes the bottoms are too long and there's just too much excess. So cutting it a little bit shorter, making sure not to cut where the string is. Again, a little dab of hot glue. Hold that wire just about 1 inch or so from the end, gentle twist and push, being careful not to crush the flower, and then do it again for my third. If you're just doing one flower, you only need to stem that one single flower. This is going to ultimately be a 3-flower boutonniere. So we've got our flowers, and the next step is going to be to prep our greenery. So I've got this leaf pulled right off of a bigger bush, and I'm going to peel that plastic veining off of the leaf. And I'm actually going to glue this right onto my Boot Boss pin. So you're just going to put a little dab of hot glue onto the pin. The acrylic part, you're going to put your leaf on so it's sticking up. You can actually do multiple leaves and you can angle them at different angles as well. Totally up to you. And then we're going to prep the rest of our greenery. So this ruscus has multiple layers, and so I like to trim off a little bit, and I also will do them in different varying lengths as well. And then I'll pull a couple leaves off so it gives it a little bit more of a stem. You can cut these, but honestly, it rips right off if you just give it a good pull. And this one I'm going to leave longer, so I'm not going to cut that bottom 3 leaves off. I'm going to leave that stem intact. I do sometimes trim that stem if it's a little thicker on the bottom. This Italian ruscus, I like to pull the bottom leaves off, and again, I will trim. There's like a little part where it connects to the bigger bush. It's thick, so we'll cut that off just so it's not in the way or making things too bulky. And then this, I kind of just spread it out, and you're going to be layering your greenery on right over that boot pin. If you don't have a boot pin and you're just using wires, same thing. You're just creating a little bundle with these stems. And so I just like to play around. I've got different pieces of different lengths here and layer them in and sort of see how I like the look of things. So this one I'm going to switch to have my taller one over here to balance the taller pieces on the other side. My leaf in the back doesn't want to stay put because it was kind of bending, but once it's up against somebody's chest when they're wearing it, that won't really be an issue. So once I've got these here, you can keep going and add your flowers, but if you're just starting and you're afraid of losing like what you're gripping, it's good to just maybe take a moment and tape this off so that you can put it down and not have to worry about losing what you've created. I'm using my vinyl tape here. Floral tape can also work. Electrical tape, any of those are perfect. So I'm just going to wrap it around and make it so that I don't have to hold this. Nice and tight is the secret. If it's loose, it can still move. So you're going to cover all of this up later and nobody will see that tape. Now, once we're here, the next step is going to be to add a little bit of fillers in. You can do this later, but I like to do it first. Make sure that your fillers stick up high enough. I think on this one, I wished after the fact that I'd made my baby's breath come up a little bit higher. And I'm just pulling off little pieces from my larger bush and creating this nice background. Now with my flower, I want it to face forward, so I'm going to bend my wire so that the flower is more forward facing and slide that right into my grip there. And shuffle around the greenery, move fillers that need to be moved. We're going to add more flowers, but as is, this would be a super cute single flower boutonniere. You'd have your single flower, your fillers, your greenery, and you would just finish off the stems. So good as it is, I'm going to actually just tape this off a little bit so we don't have to worry about losing it. And then when you're adding the other flowers, that means sometimes you have to move your bigger flower a little bit off center to fit everything else in. Now you can do the same thing here, bending the wire so that you can get the right angle. I'm not doing the best job of keeping that in the frame for you, but you'll see it in just a moment. And then I like to slide my littler ones kind of coming from the top, sneak those in down, and I'm just holding everything at the bottom, much like you would if you were making a bouquet, just a really mini little bouquet. So fluffing things out, making sure I like the placement before I tape anything off. And you can even come in on the side if you want to hit it from different angles. This is not an essential part. Honestly, when you're looking at a boutonniere from the front, you can't always see all of that. But if you like to finish off edges and do finishing touches, this is a great way to do that. You could also use more baby's breath or more greenery or anything like that as well. So once we've got that done, our boutonniere is basically finished. I'm going to add in some pine cones because it's winter when I'm filming this, and I want to add a little bit of that like rustic, wintry vibe. Now, you can wire pine cones. You would use a really thin gauge wire or like paddle wire, and you could wrap it around. You could attempt to hot glue a thicker wire to it as well. These I've got enough to nestle in here. I've got these leaves. I'm going to add hot glue right to that mini pine cone, and I'm going to kind of just come in and hold it in place. It's important though that you give that time to fully dry before you start moving it around, um, just to make sure. And I'm going to add one more little pine cone too on the side. I think one might have been enough, but I was just in the pine cone mood. So I'm going to come in and glue one more little guy in over to fill in on the opposite side, since I have the flowers on the other side, and just sort of balance out the design. And then once we do that, we're just going to finish it off with some ribbon. So you can see I added that extra pine cone, and I considered adding a little more baby's breath, and then I decided it was good all on its own. So we've trimmed any other stems that might need trimming in case you added more wires. And now it is time to wrap. So I'm going to show you how to wrap with twine and ribbon. You don't need to do both, but twine, I just do a little dab of hot glue at the top, and you're going to hold that down. And then you're just going to wrap it around itself, which I may or may not do in the actual space that you can see. So once you get it wrapping, it's a lot easier when you're not trying to film it. Do it at an angle that just works best for you. I like to just spiral my boutonniere and come all the way down to the bottom. Once I get to the bottom, I'm going to add a little hot glue just so it's not going to slide off, and then keep wrapping all the way to the bottom. And then I come back up just a couple wraps around, and then I will trim with scissors and hot glue that last little piece down. I do try to end right in the back with the twine. So I'm hot gluing on the back side, not the front. Twine's actually pretty forgiving. You're not going to see a whole lot. It really covers great. And if you ever want to do ribbon, but the stems are just so uneven, you could always twine first because it really kind of smooths everything out. So I'm just adding that little dab of hot glue here and the back side. I press it with my fingers, but you could use something else. I'm just used to the hot glue. So that's your boutonniere with a twine wrap and ready to go on the back with that boot boss pin. If you want to wrap it with ribbon, it's a little bit trickier, but not all that much. So you're going to do the same essential thing. You're going to start with a little dab of hot glue, and then you are going to spiral your ribbon down your boutonniere. Whoops, mine came undone there. So you are going to go down at a slight angle until you get to the bottom. And the same thing, I don't always add that extra hot glue here. Sometimes I do. It's usually a pretty tight wrap with the ribbon. And then I'm going to spiral back up. What this does is it smooths out the finish on your ribbon. And when you get back up to the top, you can cut it. Ideally, you would cut with scissors and not wire cutters, and you'll get a nice smooth cut. And then you're going to make sure that it ends right on the back. Add your dab of hot glue. Hold that down for, a couple seconds to make sure it's good. Wipe away any hot glue strings, and now you have a ribbon wrapped boutonniere. Easy as pie.